before we go into the game, are you all familiar with these words? Have you seen them before?
Yes.
Do you know what this word, literal language? Just by a show of hands, who's familiar with it? Literal language. What about figurative language? So a lot of us are familiar. What about these words? Are you all familiar with them?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to test your knowledge of literal language, figurative language, and the different figures of speech you've just seen on the board. So can you please go on to your internet browser? You're supposed to be on this page after searching for Kahoot. Okay, so if you are not on this page, you're going to go into your Internet Explorer, type in K-A-H-O-O-T, Kahoot. Then you're going to click on the first link that says enter game pin here. You're going to click on that one. Then once you're here, it's going to ask for a game pin. Are you all on this page? Who's still not, who's not there? Are you connected to the Wi-Fi? Okay, for those who are there, you can type in this number that says 938-1702. A nickname, not enter a nickname yet. I'm going to tell you which to enter. How many are still struggling to enter the game? Also on your cell phone, it's not going through. Who's still struggling?
I believe. The first one.
Okay. That's a struggling lady. So what I want you to do is you can join one of the two groups there. One can go there and another can go to that side. So now you're going to be group A. You guys are going to be group A. You're going to be group B. That's what you're going to be writing where it says nickname. Where it says nickname, you're going to write group A, group B, group C, group D. After typing in your nickname or your group name, it's supposed to pop up here on the board. Group A, Group B, Group C, D.
Group D.
On the board, you're going to see a question. On the board, you're going to see a question, and then on your device, you're going to see 4 different shapes. You are going to select a shape based on the question you see on the board, and that is how you're going to answer. Are you all clear on that? So now I'm going to start the game. What's happening? Okay, now pay attention. Remember, the question is going to be on the board, and you're going to answer on your device. So now I'm going to be starting the game. Remember to work as a team and to read the questions carefully. Choose a specific shape. You can see that 2 groups were able to answer the question correctly. Now let's see the scoreboard. Next question. Remember,
It's loud.
allow them to choose. No, they must be in that group. They can't allow them. Now we're going to go to the next question. The faster you pick an answer, the more points you get.
What is it? Nice.
Everyone got this one correct. Let's get this to the scoreboard. Group A is on top now. Let's go to the next question. Remember to work as a team. Now one group was able to get this correct. Group B is on top now. Okay, now we're going to go to the last question. The last question is going to be double points, so you can still come out on top. But it's a tricky question. Let's see who it was. going to look at our top three. And position 3 is group B. And number 2 is group A. And at number 1, please stand up. Please give them a round of applause. Okay, now thank you. You may return to your seats. Language and the different types of speech. So now I want you to tell me what do you think this word means? Literal language. What do we mean when we say literal language?
Like if it's like real, like it's exactly there.
It's exactly that. Okay. Now you just said two things that are very important. You said that you're referring to something that's actually real, and we can experience them through the 5 senses. Do you all know what the 5 senses are?
Yes.
Can you please name them?
Smell,
touch, taste,
hear, see.
hearing, and sight. Those are the 5 senses. So every time we talk about literal language, we're referring to things that we can experience physically through the 5 senses. What about figurative language?
Figurative language is like if you say it, but it's not like exactly there.
It's not exactly that. That's correct. So figurative language functions by allowing readers to activate their creativity and imagination when they read a poem or a novel. Have you ever noticed that when, let's say, you're reading a poem about love, you're able to imagine someone who's in a relationship, probably with a family, and you're able to connect with that specific character. And those words, those combinations of words allow you because they activate your imagination. And that is what we call the use of figurative language, because it's a creative form of language that allows us to understand text better. So when looking at this picture, we have already discussed literal language and its meaning, and also figurative language. When we say he has lost his marbles, in the literal sense, what does it mean?
His marbles are loose. Like he can't find it.
In the literal sense.
It's gone, you can't find it, you don't know where is it.
You can't see.
Remember to raise your hand.
Can't find it.
Can't find what? His marbles, né? So that means he actually lost the marbles. Because in the picture you can see that they're actually on the floor. There's also the ones coming out of his ear. He might have been going to the store and misplaced them somewhere. And he actually lost his marbles. So he had something, and along the journey, he lost it. What about in the figurative sense? What do you think it means then? He's losing his mind. That means, yeah, when we talk about the marbles, we can say his sanity. Because sanity refers to the ability for us to be able to function effectively in society and to communicate with other people without being crazy. So when we say someone has lost his marbles in the figurative sense, it means he has lost his mind. So now we're going to move on to the different types of figures of speech. When looking at the definition for the words figures of speech, it says they refer to words or phrases that have a different meaning from their literal definitions. So we just spoke about the 2 different languages that are found within novels or poems. The first we said is literal language, and the second was figurative language. So by reading this definition, where do you think figures of speech fall under between the 2?
Figurative.
Figurative language. Why do you say that?
Because like with personification, like if you say like a tree, like now it's a tree. The forest swallowed something, and the forest can't really swallow, so it's figurative.
That's true. That's how, and an easier way to remember this, figures resembles figurative language. So it falls under figurative language, the figures of speech. Now, when we look at similes, what do similes do? What is their function? What do similes do? They're used for comparison. So how do they go about comparing?
You say like
Using
like
like,
is
using like or as. So can you please give me an example of a use of a simile?
you buzz like a bee.
You buzz like a bee,
And as strong as an ox.
strong as an ox. Let's write the first one. And then we have strong as an ox. So in the first sentence, what are we comparing?
A bee
We're comparing a bee
and a person.
and a person that might be buzzing. So we might say that person is hyper or they're very energetic. So they are buzzing like a bee. Then in the second sentence, what are we comparing?
A ox
An ox
and a person.
to a person who's strong. The quality of being strong. So for us, we know that it's a simile because there is an as or a like. What about a metaphor? What does it do? What does a metaphor do? How do you know that there's a metaphor in a specific poem or novel? Would you like to try? So a metaphor also does comparison. But now, without using the words like or as. Let's say, for example, I were to say, you are a shining star. You are a shining star. What am I comparing then?
A person and a shining star.
A person and a star. Person and a star. And which quality are we trying to emphasize? The shining. Because we all know that stars are bright, so you might be trying to say that person is smart or very beautiful in some respects. So that's how you know it's a metaphor where you compare two things without using the words like or as. And now, what about a personification? Because we talked about it just now.
Giving human qualities to an inanimate object.
Giving human qualities to an inanimate object. So, can you please provide me with 3 qualities that only humans have?
Smelling,
Smelling, eating, feeling, sight. Yeah? So, can you provide me an example of personification? Because you had one in our test where it
the
said
fire swallowed the forest.
the fire swallowed the forest. And now we all know that fires do not necessarily have mouths. They're not able to eat, taste, see, or any of the other human qualities, but it was able to what? Destroy the forest. So when we say swallow, we actually referring to is the fire's destructive power of how it was able to destroy the whole entire forest. Are you all clear on that one? What about the hyperbole? What is that? What about that one? What do you think it means?
Our teachers, please take note, especially our grade 9
Can I guess?
for
Can I
our
guess so?
submission
Yeah, you
to
can
the
guess.
relevant subjects.
Isn't it like it sounds like
We
boom
need to
bam?
include and it
Boom,
must be
bam.
clear our question
Isn't it
paper
sounds?
analysis. You know, our
Okay.
test,
You are not wrong. That's another type of figure of speech,
it
and
must
it's
be
called
part of the
onomatopoeia.
teacher submission. Thank you.
Would you like to try? Because you're not wrong, you're just referring to onomatopoeia. That's when you have the words bang, boom, splat, and other sound or other words that resemble sounds that we hear in our everyday lives. That is called onomatopoeia. But now, when we're talking about hyperbole, we're referring to exaggeration. Words that exaggerate. For instance, if I were to say, I have a million things to do today, knowing that I would be having a busy day, there I am exaggerating the fact that I'll be having a busy day by placing that word that says a million. I do not actually, in the literal sense, have to do a million things. I'm just exaggerating what I have to do. So, are you all comfortable with the 4 figures of speech we've just discussed? Okay, so now we'll be doing an activity. I want you to take out a piece of paper. You're going to be quickly doing an activity where you have to match column A with column B. What I want you to do is, you're going to see sentences on column A. You're going to write out the sentences in full, then next to it, you're going to be writing the answer. So this is the table you'll be working through. Are you okay on that? You have 2 minutes to complete this activity. You may start. 1 minute left. Okay, your time is up. Can you please swap your page with someone next to you? Okay, do you all have a different piece of paper in front of us? Okay. Now, the first sentence says, as blind as a bat. What is it?
Metaphor.
It's a simile. And how do you know it's a simile?
It's
It's as. And what are we comparing here?
a bit and a blind person.
A blind person and a bat. Yeah? In the second sentence, what is this? The snowflakes danced outside. Personification. How do we know it's a personification?
Because now like dance.
So we're giving snowflakes the human quality of what? Dancing. That is personification. What about time is money? What is that? What is it? You say it's a hyperbole. You say it's a metaphor. This is actually a metaphor. Because we're comparing time to money. Because now we're comparing time to money because we all know that money is valuable and you should not waste money. Such is the same way you should not waste time. So that's why this is a metaphor. What about the last sentence that says the bag weighs a ton? What is that? Hyperbole. And what does the hyperbole do?
It exaggerates something.
It exaggerates, yeah? And which word shows us here that we're exaggerating? A ton. So now how did you fail? How did the person you're marking for do in this quiz? In this activity? They did well. 2 wrong, 2 right. How did they do? Okay. You may give the person back the paper now. Now, remember, today's lesson was basically lay the foundation for our next lesson that will focus on poems or poetry. So when you get home, I want you to read these 3 poems. You can write them down. Just write it down quickly. So these are the 3 poems you have to prepare for our next lesson. Have you all written them down? Done.
Ashwin Kipiro, please report to the principal's office immediately. Ashwin Kipiro, please report to the principal's office immediately. Thank you.
So when you grade these poems, this is what I want you to do. I want you to identify any unfamiliar words and find their definition. Once you find their definition, you must use them in a sentence. Then you must try to identify any use of the 4 figures of speech you just went over. Are you okay on that one? On each poem. So you're going to identify any unfamiliar words, thereafter the figures of speech. Are you okay?